Hey there, friend. You're watching the Laconic John channel, and this is a movie recap of the movie A Prayer Before Dawn. Enjoy the show. The film is based on true events. Billy Moore, a British man, is heavily addicted to drugs. He moved to Thailand and occasionally takes part in Muay Thai fights. A young friend helped him prepare for today's match, but Billy was high and performed poorly. He got knocked out. Once back on his feet, he wanted to continue, but instead of hitting his opponent, he kicked the referee. That night, Billy visited a club as usual, bought a dose, and wandered the city streets. The next day, the police burst into his home. Billy hid the pills in his backside and tried to escape, but he was caught. As he didn't speak Thai, communication was physical. The foreigner was thrown into a pickup truck and taken to the station. There, he flushed the drugs down the toilet. But he had another problem: illegal possession of a firearm. Billy was taken to prison and thoroughly searched. He waddled along and was sent for mugshots. One of the guards offered him white powder. He hoped to gain a new client. In addition to standard hardships, Billy went through severe withdrawal. He entered an overcrowded cell. The inmates were curious about the new guy's exotic looks. Tiffany took him to her side, while on the other side of him lay a corpse that Billy nearly hugged. The inmates were warned those who smoked or got tattoos would be punished, but Billy didn't understand a word. The dorm looked like a can of sardines, inmates lying nearly on top of one another. In the morning, people pushed and kicked just to reach the water. Billy's attempt to wash up ended in a scuffle with another inmate. As punishment, the boxer was thrown into solitary, then transferred to another block. There he was placed with hardened criminals, all tattooed and intimidating. One of the senior inmates knew a little English, asked a few questions, and then made a lackey do push-ups. Billy was constantly groped and threatened. Eventually, he was beaten and forced to move closer to the toilet. A skinny guy was brought in. A fight broke out, but the gang leader quickly shut it down. One night, Billy needed to pee. They made him kneel and put a knife to his face. Just a few feet away, the thin guy was gang raped. Billy was ordered to keep his mouth shut. After witnessing that, he couldn't sleep. The next morning, that same boy's body was carried out of the cell. At the prison pharmacy, Billy was denied painkillers, even though they were supposed to be free. They said he'd have to pay in cigarettes. Furious, he attacked the guards and nearly bit one's throat. Now he was ready to rip apart any of the tattooed inmates, but eventually he was beaten with batons and thrown into a cellar to die. However, he was nursed back to health by the admiration of fellow inmates. Billy thanked Fame, a girl who worked at the prison store and had helped him. He borrowed a block of cigarettes from her and later traded them for drugs. Meanwhile, athletic inmates went for a jog. Before bed, someone had taken a fan blade. The prison chief was asking questions. During a search, sirens blared. Billy was told someone had been killed, apparently with that fan blade. The inmates were lined up outside and 3 bodies were wheeled past. All prisoners were searched. A dog sniffed something in Billy's shirt, and guards found drugs. But it wasn't his shirt. A nearby dealer had planted it on him. Billy managed to convince the guards. They dragged off the Thai dealer and gave him a brutal public beating to send a message. Billy's addiction drove him to extremes. The guard who gave him drugs for free now wanted payment. Billy had to beat up 2 Muslim inmates who were interfering with the drug business. Like a mad bull, Billy stormed into the kitchen and nearly killed them, even though the guard had only asked him to rough them up. That broke Billy. He refused the next dose and broke down in tears, realizing what he had become. He decided to escape at night for good, but his cellmate noticed and called the guards. Billy's young friend came to visit. The boy proudly said he'd won a Muay Thai tournament. Billy, speechless, just cried. The visit reminded him that boxing always played a key role in his life. So he headed to the prison gym, but the door was slammed shut right in front of him. The guy begged not to be kicked out and asked for just one chance to prove himself in the ring, but the coach didn't even want to hear it. Billy apologized to Fame for not repaying her for the cigarettes, and then asked her for another loan. This time, he paid in cigarettes to get access to the gym. The coach got curious about the newcomer and invited him to spar. To test Billy, he paired him with a Thai fighter. The Thai unleashed a flurry of punches, forcing Billy into deep defense. During roll call, the hardened inmates noticed Billy's bruised face and laughed at him. Angry and desperate, Billy spent the rest of the training session punching the bag and screaming at the top of his lungs. The Thai fighters started whispering about the strange foreigner. Gambling thrived in the barracks. Today, bets were placed on a fish fight. Billy bet 2 packs of cigarettes and won, but they refused to pay him. The bookie even smashed a bottle to slash him, but the boss insisted on following the rules. Billy finally paid back Fame. At the same time, he decided it was time for some romance and began flirting with a transgender inmate. A weigh-in was held, and a suitable opponent was found for Billy. They even staged a quick stare-down. In the ring, it was rough. Fame, now Billy's girlfriend, cheered him on. By the 4th round, his eye was swollen shut and his ear was torn. Long past any defense, the 2 fighters just traded heavy punches. It was a grueling, meat-grinding bout, but Billy came out victorious. The Thai was knocked out cold. The prison officials had been watching the match and decided to transfer Billy to the cell block with the other fighters. He'd receive their privileges and represent the prison in the National Muay Thai tournament. Billy became the first foreigner to receive such an honor. He had 2 months to prepare. Billy's father learned where his son was and wrote him a letter. Billy grew close to his small cellmate, while the rest of the inmates eyed him with suspicion. Life was slightly easier in the new barrack. Billy trained hard every day. The athletes even ate in the gym. One man Billy had beaten 13 years ago had once taken the fall for his girlfriend. Upon hearing he'd get 5 years, he snapped and killed 3 people. Now he'd never be free. Another guy was born into poverty and tried to get rich by becoming a hitman. He managed to kill 2 before receiving a life sentence. That night, Billy secretly got a tattoo on his back. The session ended with a prayer. The coach smoked during training. Billy's kicks were still his weakest point, but the problem was more technique than strength. He hit with everything he had. Billy and Fame continued their relationship, but one day he saw her with one of his former cellmates. Consumed by jealousy, he attacked her. Upset, he relapsed and used again. In the ring, his behavior turned erratic. The wild Englishman launched a dirty attack on another athlete and tried to stomp him. The crazed outburst required a group takedown, and the guards threw him into solitary. Billy kept losing his mind in isolation before finally calming down and regaining focus. He spent a month and a half in the hole before being allowed back into the barracks. The fighters gave him a hard time. Billy apologized to the man he attacked. During training, they pushed him to total exhaustion and then massaged him as a team, an odd ritual of camaraderie. Billy owed money for drugs. A group cornered and beat him. His only hope was to win the tournament. Otherwise, they'd inject him with the blood of an HIV-positive inmate. During training, Billy got sick, ran to the toilet, and threw up blood. Years of boxing, alcohol, and drugs had taken their toll. A ruptured spleen. One more injury, and he'd be done. Still, Billy didn't back out of the tournament. The team was transferred to another prison. A ring had been set up in the courtyard. Billy's turn came, but he was in agony. Still, he pushed through the crowd and stepped into the ring. He bowed to the guards and saw his powerful opponent. As tradition dictated, a ritual dance came before the fight. In the first round, Billy came out aggressive, trying to dominate with sheer force. But the Thai fighter slammed him to the mat and then kicked him in the stomach while he was down. Billy suffered that final injury, but got back up and kept fighting. At the bell, he collapsed to his knees, and his opponent kicked him again. Billy clutched his side and moaned in pain. He needed to end the fight quickly, but all he could do was defend. Just as he was about to lose, Billy threw a spinning elbow and knocked the Thai out. The foreigner had won. But right after the victory, Billy vomited blood and passed out. He had been fighting with internal bleeding. They managed to save him. He woke up in a city hospital. Billy thought it might be a good idea to escape. He walked out with a chain on his ankle and wandered off. But eventually he changed his mind and returned to the room. When Billy fully recovered, they brought him back to prison, where his father was waiting. His father was played by the real Billy Moore. The real Billy spent 3 years in a Thai prison before being transferred to a British one. In 2010, he was released by royal pardon. Billy wrote a book and dedicated his life to helping other addicts. Sadly, he couldn't attend the film's premiere because he had broken into his neighbor's house and shed, for which he received 2 more years.